expectation, you're the woman in the situation, and so now you're gonna open the door and let everybody else in, and it doesn't work that way. In fact, it takes at least 30% representation of women in any situation in order for you to gain sort of the access and power to start reshaping situations. So, you know, a lot of women do exactly what you just said and what you alluded to. They look at that C-suite space, they look at that leadership space, and they go, ooh, who wants that? You know, and so they opt out of that because they say, I can't deal with that, and as one woman, I can't go in there and change the whole thing. And so, you know, we have to start, and I'll talk about this in a few minutes, but we have to really start thinking about this from 30,000 feet, you know, rather than expecting every individual woman to be the one to, you know, be the powerhouse and break through and make all these cultural shifts.
Well, I have so many thoughts about this issue. I hope I can remember all of them. So one is that organizations really have done quite a bit in the last 40 years to acknowledge, embrace, and encourage the strengths that women are noted for. I've said this before, most of my clients are large for-profit companies, but I have also worked and consulted to nonprofits and large and small. Almost every single one of them puts tremendous value on interpersonal and team skills. Those are the skills that in study after study after study for 13 years, bosses think we excel at. So there is an appreciation in organizations for what we bring. And about the numbers, I think one of the most important things that we can ask ourselves is there something I can love about the organization I'm working for? Because none of us is going to change the numbers that matter. They matter. They matter because they enable our organizations to borrow money to grow. They matter because they allow our organizations to have credibility to seek grants. They matter because they allow our organizations to get reimbursed for the healthcare services we provide. These numbers matter. So if we don't care for the organization we're working for, it's okay to not care about the numbers, but if you care about the organization you're working for, it's really important to both understand the numbers and to care about how you contribute to them. Some women, so we do a 360 that asks managers, among others, to give feedback to women about business acumen, their understanding of the numbers. And I can't tell you, this is kind of similar to what you heard, the number of managers on the financial acumen questions will put a little note on the manual version of this and say, she doesn't have to know this. Yeah. Don't worry your pretty little head about the numbers. The numbers do matter, and it's worth learning to understand them. And, let me say one other thing. And it's not about not being authentic. It's about growing who we are. There's nothing inauthentic about caring about our organizations or the numbers.
You know, my mom was one of the first licensed female stockbrokers in New England. And I remember listening to her struggle with the values question. And she did it for years, and she decided that she couldn't let go of the fact that she didn't have control over the stock market. She couldn't tolerate people's losses, so she didn't do it after a while. But she then took over a business and got it out of financial free fall. So this conversation, a lot of women, you know, go back and pioneers will talk about this kind of stuff. Yeah, we get to choose where we use our skills, but if you're going to be in the business world, you got to do the numbers. I hated learning what the balance sheet. It was so illogical when I, became responsible in my nonprofit for that part. I was like, oh my God, who made up these terms? They were so meaningless, so I renamed them so that they had meaning for me. But the bottom line was that I didn't, and I talked to a lot of other people about this. Some of the words just, they turn us off. Like, the word metrics, I just glaze over. I hear the word metrics and I glaze over. I have to break it down into functionality. What are we really trying to find? What are we trying to look for in the data? That I can align with. And I know a lot of other people, they get really turned off by the business buzzwords, and every year there's another one. I don't know about you, but the term human capital makes me want to bark. Who dreamed that one up? Human capital. Are we talking about our employees that make our businesses thrive? Why would we call them human capital? I think of chattel, But yeah, so I don't think we can.
That's what happens when there's more women in the
Yeah. So I think we can give ourselves some leeway to change language that doesn't fit with us, as long as we do, talk the talk when we have to communicate with people who don't know our terms. We can't teach them. But I think we have to know the information that comes with running a business, so.
Thank you, guys. Does anyone else want to ask anything of the panel before I introduce Marcia? No, we'll have a little time at the end, too.
I just had a question about, I think I struggle a bit with competition is the right word, but on the one hand, to move forward, you have to have a competitive edge, you have to be wanting to sort of step out and do something and show your skills. But on the other hand, I also find, maybe as a result, a lot of the women that I work alongside of, no one's mentoring anybody because we're all competing with each other. So how do you balance the two? And if you're sort of trying to move forward, I'm just thinking about what can my own actions be in terms of balancing moving ahead, but also finding someone to mentor or be mentored by. It's a constant struggle, balancing the two.
A couple of thoughts. So somehow, I think many of us, and I know this was true for myself, many of us have the idea that standing out means standing separate. And in most organizations, what's being looked for is someone who can move the team. So not mentoring each other. When I was working for Lifespan, I heard a lot the phrase, nurses eat their young. This does not help anybody. It doesn't help us when we're not being kind. It doesn't help the patients who are getting the benefit of our knowledge being transferred to others. It doesn't help us stand out in a positive way when we do that. And I think every profession, I'm not picking on nursing, I think every profession has a variation of that. So the idea that to stand out means we have to be separate is really not the fact of the matter. The people who stand out are the people who bring the team forward, either as colleagues or in a supervisory role. So please do pick someone to mentor and ask for a mentor. If someone's not reaching out to you, you can ask for mentorship. The one piece of advice I'll give about that is be very specific about what you're asking for. Asking someone, oh, will you be my mentor? Oh my God, I've got kids, I've got elderly parents, I have my job, I have my, But if you say, I'm looking to learn about the financials and the story they tell so I can be a better decision maker, could you help me with that? Someone will say yes.
You're the mentoring guru.
Thank you, everybody. everybody, oh,
Yeah, I had a question. I know there was, at one point, we were talking about, you know, the male brain, the female brain, and things that we can do to assist in that communication. And I'm wondering if there's any strategies also in kind of in the generations, in speaking with one another?
Yeah, so generational differences.
do you think 26-year-old women up here are tired of 20-year-olds? I don't know.
No, not at all, no, not at all. I think the differences are less profound than people would have us believe. When I was in my 20s, they said about my generation similar things, except about the technological savviness. Similar things. We were impatient, we wanted it all. Balance of life was more important to us than generations preceding. Yeah, there are some differences, but I don't think they don't create walls. That's what I